Okay, welcome to the Centre for Innovation Leadership podcast as part of the CLIck project. My name is Gavin Johnston. I'm Associate Director for Collaborative and Commercial Partnerships at Built Environment Smarter Transformation, or BEST, formerly Construction Scotland Innovation Centre, and I'm joined by colleagues from other innovation centres across Scotland who I'll like to introduce themselves, and I'll go to my left for Liz.
Sure, thank you very much, Gavin. I'm Liz Fletcher. I'm Director of Impact and Deputy CEO of Scotland's Industrial Biotechnology Innovation Centre, called iBioIC for short.
Hi everyone, my name's Jeanette Hughes. I am Director of Planning and Performance for the Digital Health and Care Innovation Centre. So we are the innovation centre that looks after digital for NHS, local authorities, and we work with universities, colleges, industry, and importantly, the citizens of Scotland.
And Anna?
Hi, I'm Anna Ashton-Scott, and I'm Head of Skills at the Data Lab, which is Scotland's Innovation Centre for Data and AI.
Perfect. Thank you very much, everybody. So this is episode 1 of 3, and the first topic of conversation is diffusion and the innovation system. So question 1, when we talk about diffusing innovation in Scotland, what does that mean in practice from your collective experience? And then that includes myself as well. I don't get to just pass off the card. Who would like to go first?
I don't mind having a shot. So industrial biotechnology is a way of applying biotechnology, so bio-based manufacturing, across lots of different sectors. So we, as an innovation centre, we work with industry, with academia, so people that are doing research that can generate applied research which can ultimately be translated into products for the real world. And because industrial biotechnology is a sort of generic technology platform, it could be applied across many, many different sectors, from making green chemicals through to bioplastics, more sustainable dyes and inks, different types of food, and feed for animals. So when we think about diffusing innovation, we're seeing really new, exciting technology applied in many, many different marketplaces. And that creates lots of different economic opportunities for companies and the people in Scotland. So we have a very sort of very specific understanding of what we're trying to do around diffusing that innovation. And we've seen that with a lot of effort from lots of different people. That's starting to happen in Scotland, which is really rewarding.
Perfect, thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I suppose one of the points we spoke about earlier before the podcast started was, what is the definition of diffusing innovation? And I think for me, from an innovation centre, it's about spreading it from partner to partner, as well as focusing on the end result. I suppose a lot of people can think about diffusing innovation when the pilot has already been established and evidenced, and then how do you move it to practice, business as usual, into service delivery for a digital health and care project. So actually, I think sometimes the definition varies depending on who you speak to. So I think it's quite a broad appeal, and I think even everybody around this table might have a different definition up their sleeve for how they diffuse innovation.
Absolutely. Anna?
So I was thinking about the sort of role of the innovation centres in this space, and we're all responsible for connecting industry and academia. But I think what we also do through our various programmes is providing that kind of bridging system for the translation of ideas. And in data and AI, for example, you've got the technology and you've got processes, but you also need skills, and that's not just specialist skills. That includes literacy across an organisation to help kind of bridge that gap. And so the programmes that we deliver support students who are master's students who are studying data and AI at Scotland universities, but we also provide leadership training so that leaders in organisations can really make the most of that talent when it comes out of the university system and into the workplace, and making sure that employability skills and collaboration and communication and identifying problems and applying kind of the right technology in a sort of ethical way.
Yeah, I think you pick up on something interesting there in terms of the role of the innovation centres and that kind of knowledge transfer, more than out with just the people who've been involved in the pilot project, but actually making broader industry and the broader environment aware of what you've done in kind of practice. And that, I think, brings us on well to the second question, which is why has diffusion become such a central priority across the innovation system in recent years? And personally, from our perspective, I certainly see it as, we're kind of a proof of concept stage where we've had significant investment in the innovation centres over the last decade. And it's saying, how do you then translate that into impact and into industry? And I wonder if any of you think in particular there's an ability to take what has been learned through the innovation pilots and see them become standard operating procedure or really being adopted by industry. Or not, is the case maybe.
I guess we've got a couple of examples of that. One is the Smart Manufacturing Data Hub. So that was the Data Lab led the data analytics work there, but turned kind of these bespoke proof of concept into reusable tools that were sort of repeatable across different organisations, but backed that up with training and community support, so that they were creating sort of dashboards and templates that were reusable by lots of different organisations within a sector, but then kind of supporting that with the community and training and upskilling to help embed that into organisations.
I suppose a big advantage from the Data Lab's perspective is an innovation centre that's kind of cross-sectoral. You're not focused on one particular sector, you're supporting people who are coming through from data sciences perspective, but they could be going into any industry, so you're getting that cross-fertilisation. Is that slightly different in terms of DHI?
No, I mean, DHI has multi-partners. Our ultimate success will be if the innovations that we're helping partners develop and deliver are transferred into real practice. So we obviously help partners like NHS, local authorities, academics, etc. test and give them the right skills and, I suppose, space to innovate. But I think the other aspect is the priority for innovation. Just now in Scotland goes back to the priority really for growth for the whole of the UK and obviously Scotland. And I think that's why our innovation centres are a kind of key focus area. An engine, I suppose, for that growth and for that diffusion of innovation to be accelerated as much as possible into real products, services and processes that can be used to, I suppose, fuel that growth agenda, which is so desperately needed at a university spin-out level, but also across industry generally. So I think that priority across innovation systems in recent years is really that growth agenda behind that, and for more R&D, because as we know, growth can't happen really without innovation and research and development behind it.
And is that...
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess if we think back to why the innovation centres were created, what the need was at the time was there was a belief and understanding that there was a lot of incredible research that goes on in our universities and it wasn't being translated into economic opportunities. So to some extent, I think the innovation centres have been very successful at enabling that process through we're all very different, we do it in different ways, we serve different markets. But the end goal is jobs, it's economic growth. And I guess governments are concerned around problems with the innovation system is there's a lot of value that's lost if we can't capture and translate the ideas that people have. Not just in universities, of course, there's lots of fantastic ideas outside of that as well. But I think that's why there's a lot of focus on innovation.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe jump to a later question though in terms of that is what collective we see is the biggest risk if diffusion is not addressed effectively. So if we're not demonstrating that value, or what is it we're essentially leaving on the table? as it were, with world-class academic institutes, as well as, our ambition for growth.
Yeah, well, falling behind, stalling economic growth, not having the jobs of the future for the next generation are coming through. I mean, AI, great case in point. So I think we need to be ahead of the curve. We need to be innovative as a nation, and so I think there's a huge cost if we don't.
Yeah. I think there's also an urgency to solve really big problems that the innovation centres are obviously tackling. I don't think any of our innovation centres would be here unless there was a pressing need and demand for the services that we have. So if I take digital health as an example, it's a market that's globally worth 700 billion by 2030. So that demand is driving the interest and the need to make sure that our universities, colleges, our industry is actually built for the future demand and can take the opportunity up. So I think that urgency and demand is really core to the innovation diffusion. Everybody can have great ideas, but if there's not a market for them, there's little point to pursue it.
Yeah, and I think that's where that kind of industry, that constantly keeping that conversation open with industry to make sure that we're supporting the right types of courses in universities, that the skills that are coming out are going to meet the demands of industry in the future. But I think there's also a risk that we don't retain talent within Scotland unless we have the infrastructure to support in terms of jobs and places for our students to go and.
Yeah, I think that's probably something we can all say across each of our sectors is and probably come on to skills and workforce next. But I think that that kind of talent pool that we all recognise that we're actually effectively all competing against each other for, and each sector feels that quite profoundly, and it's a good opportunity for innovation to happen because there's a problem statement. We don't have enough people entering our particular sector, and how can we use skills and learning to enhance that as well. I suppose from my perspective, the biggest risk if diffusion isn't applied within innovation is that we make those investments, we do the learning, and we kind of keep it in a closed box, and it sits in a report somewhere on a shelf, and we're kind of doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past, and we're not actually recognising what that growth opportunity is. We're not seeing that growth, and we're stalling as well. So from that perspective, where do skills and workforce capability fit within that diffusion challenge then? And I'll probably come straight to Anna for the skills question.
I'm going to keep bringing this back to skills and all this stuff, but I mean, it can be the enabler or the bottleneck, can't it? So it's what I was saying at the beginning. Unless we were sort of creating that bridging area for matching the skills that are we're nurturing within our universities, and how they can be translated into the workplace. So it's about leadership and organisations kind of understanding the art of the possible. It's about being able to kind of nurture the talent that's coming from university, but give them a proper. We have students who have studied data engineering or and then end up in a data analytics job, and it's because there's not the kind of shared language and understanding of what that actually means in terms of the sort of the organizational literacy. Like a data scientist is a particular kind of discipline within the kind of broader scheme. So it's really about organisations understanding what skills they need to solve the problems that they are trying to solve, and then how to sort of create a nurturing environment for that talent to grow.
Can I just come in? I suppose from a digital health perspective, what we're seeing is very similar. It's sometimes translating the needs of the future and making sure that we go downstream to build that pipeline of talent. And that might even be going to schools and making sure people are getting involved in STEM, moving through colleges and universities. But I suppose it's wider than that. You have to also make sure that the workforce that's already in place delivering the services that your sector's focused on are upskilling at the same time. We can't just rely on the university students coming through. And that means that we have to look at technical skills, but we also have to look at softer skills, project management, innovation, jobs that probably when we all went to school didn't even exist. What might exist in the future, we really have to think about for diffusing innovation, because I certainly never came across innovation probably until 20 years ago. And I went to school a lot longer than that. So, when do we start introducing it to the conversation for careers and skills?
Yeah, I think there's the opportunity as well. Just, it's always find it interesting when we have these kind of cross-disciplinary discussions as how common the learning is. And it is always, how do you share that learning and how do you diffuse the innovation that's happening at each individual level, so that you're kind of you're not reinventing the wheel across what we've learned and invested in. So that's unfortunately all the time we have for episode 1. We'll be back very shortly for episode 2, as I understand it. But thank you very much for your contributions.
Thanks, Gavin.